with us today. And before we start our discussing today's questions, I would like to suggest that we watch a short video that gives a full understanding of a problem that already exists today in the climatic, ecological, and social areas of our society.
The world must wake up.
Climate summit in Glasgow. The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson urged world leaders today.
Le changement climatique est en marche depuis la fin du XXe siècle.
The climate crisis is not our fight alone, it's a global fight.
We see the warning signs in every continent and region.
It is the biggest problem humanity has faced ever.
Dilaw murayya de Allah ni ara masulo zaire taki ara hanala na hanwari ara
but the fire is spreading with great speed. Bas! Allah'ım ya Rabbim yardım et. Allah'ım yardım et. Allah'ım yardım et. Allah'ım yardım et. Arkadan gelenlere yardım et.
More evacuations are underway this morning as firefighters try to contain a fast-moving wildfire.
Easy, just go easy now. Easy. Dad, the car's heating up, it's gonna explode. Oh, Jesus, God, help us.
It's a terrifying moment. A mother is trapped in her car with her 4 kids while huge chunks of hail tumble down on them. She does her best to calm them down.
Oh, you're okay. It's okay.
Go!
Just pull over, Jordy.
അപ്പോൾ ഒത്തിരി നഷ്ടം വീടെല്ലാം പോയി, കുഞ്ഞുങ്ങൾ പോയി, അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ വന്നു. ആ പൊട്ടി വന്ന വെള്ളം ഞങ്ങളുടെയൊക്കെ വീട്ടിൽ കൂടെ.
That their workplace is changing before their eyes.
The tragedy is, this is not a movie. And the clock is ticking to the furious rhythm
It is a global challenge. We need to act. We feel the urgency.
The longer we fail to act, the worse it gets, and the higher the price when we are eventually forced by catastrophe to act.
This is the last chance.
We hear so many right words.
The climate crisis.
But have those words saved us from climate change? Have those words prevented destruction of the environment? Our world is rapidly collapsing. What will be next? Are we able to change anything? This question has driven each of us to take action. Right now, with this live broadcast, a historic event is taking place. The International Online Conference, Global Crisis, Time for the Truth. 100 languages of simultaneous interpreting, organized by volunteers from 180 countries on the platform of the international project Creative Society. This conference will change the future if everyone watches it.
Wow, this was definitely not an easy video to watch for each one of us. But at the same time, this is the truth about climate change and the truth about how people's lives are being affected all over the world in places where we could not even imagine things like tornadoes in Czech Republic or floodings in Germany we've seen, or things that happens in the US within the recent year. And today with us, we have people who experienced on their own skin what the climate change is. And I would like to ask Dr. Jeffrey Long to share his experience about the conference and why it is so important to talk about this kind of things. And what is the importance of the conference in your opinion? Please, Doctor.
Yeah, I live in Houma, Louisiana. In late August, we were struck by one of the strongest hurricanes to ever strike America. A lot of the video that you saw of hurricanes is exactly what happened here. We had 140-mile-an-hour sustained winds. In fact, my home, as so many other homes, were damaged so severely that I'm broadcasting in a recreational vehicle because my home was rendered uninhabitable by the hurricane. I've seen climate change and the devastation of increasing strength and number of hurricanes right here where I live in a way that is absolutely vivid. Thank goodness we have the Creative Society. We have this organization bringing the truth about climate change to the world. This is an outstanding group, all volunteers. That's extremely important. They're not on anybody's payroll. They're all doing this. All of us are today talking with you because we want the truth to be known and we want to emphasize that the answer is the Creative Society. We need people all around the world to understand the severity of this problem and join together collectively, wherever we are on the planet, to help find a solution.
So much, Dr. Long, for your kind words. Dear Ms. Rookmaker, thank you very much for your participation in the conference. And could you please tell us, what do you think, how important is the international conference Global Crisis Time for the Truth? Specifically, the fact that it was initiated and conducted by the people themselves, entirely on the volunteer basis. And the second question, how important do you think it is now for people themselves to start acting in the direction of unification?
Thank you. I think it's very important that people start thinking about climate change themselves. The biggest threat of people acting against climate change is that it becomes a tick-the-box process initiated by governments, where people don't understand what they are doing and why. I think it's very important that people understand that they can take charge of their existence. And it's very important that you watch in the way you want to go. So you have to look at where you want to go. And I think it's good to know the truth, and it's good to realize that climate change can be a big threat to our existence, also on an individual basis. But we mustn't forget that it's very important that we take a look at where we want to go. Because if we take a look at where we don't want to go, we will end up there. This is a simple lesson of life. If you're if you look in the direction you don't want to go, you end up where you don't want to be. So you have to look in the direction where you do want to go. And this direction is that we want people to take responsibility of their own lives and get connected with each other, because every one of us has so much potential. And that's why it's so important that this is an initiative on a voluntary basis, and that nobody's on a payroll of some organization or some industrial complex or whatever. We're gonna do this by ourselves, by connecting, by using our creativity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rookmaker. I couldn't agree with you more that we actually need a vision of the society we want to build. Otherwise, whatever we do without the goal, it just doesn't make sense. And today we hear people talking about what we don't like, what we don't want, but who's actually talking about things that we want? Who has the vision of the society where we want to reach out to? And I would like to ask Kusum, do you have this vision of the society we would like to build? And do you feel like it's been explained in the conference enough?
Thank you so much. And namaste from India. Very honored to be on the Creative Society platform to speak on this topic. And I'm deeply anguished as a person to hear and see stories from around the world on the global crisis challenge that we have. But with the belief and almost, like a mission-like action that only by uncovering the truth in the society can we all take responsibility for each one of us. Now it's up to each one of us how we come to a decision that we want to make together, for humanity. So while when we're seeing the video and the conference on climate change, which increases the risk of extreme weather events, like storms and floods and wildfires and heat waves, also droughts, making them more unpredictable, that we have seen, even in the recent past, it's happened to us in India as well. The rising sea levels and, the rainfall patterns as a result of warmer temperatures, which has destroyed crops and it's killed livestock here. It's threatened livelihoods, and food insecurity has increased. All of which, is leading to massive displacement that we all have seen. I think it's it's a shocking eye opener regarding the magnitude of a global crisis on a lot of issues that the conference has covered. So this is a defining crisis, of our times, and the impacts are, you can say, disproportionately experienced by people in vulnerable situations all the time. So definitely, it's connected, this whole global climate, it's connected to the system of sun, as I heard a few scientists, speak in the conference of the system of sun, earth and oceans. There's wind, there's rain and snow. So, there was a lot of information on this, and the description of the global climate includes how, for example, the rising temperature of the Pacific that feeds typhoons with, that blow harder, they drop more rain, cause more damage, making the sea level rise until a city can be underwater as well. So it is a global warming or a global crisis, which is it is not any longer slow atmospheric process, but it is it is now highly accelerated, which we all need to be concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kusum. When you were speaking, I absolutely agree with every single word that you said. And when you were speaking, I was thinking that global crisis time for the truth resonates in so many people from around the world. We received so many questions during the live broadcast. We keep receiving them even now. And that shows us that we as a society is starting to grow up. So we are right now, like this information that was presented on December 4th will give the opportunity for every single person on earth to make this educative decision about what we need to do next. Because as I think for the first time in entire history, such information about the format of our society, about the problem with the climate, with the ecology, and on such a scale, such a comprehensive approach were presented to the people. And right now, we regular people, what we need to do to share this information with every single person, so everybody understands the depths of the problem that we right now facing. And thank you so much for your kind word. Again, thank you, Kusum. Also, at the international conference, Time for the Truth, scientists and experts from different countries told us that green energy actually hurts the environment even more than fossil fuel. And that was like absolutely surprising for me. Also, the question of the economic infeasibility of green energy was brought up as well. So today with us, Christian, you are an expert in economics. And could you please tell us, in your opinion, why is it important for people to know the truth about green energy and the true reason for climate change?
Thank you, Marina. This is indeed a very good question. And I can say that I'm very amazed by the answers given already by the other guests today, because this interconnects very well. Ms. Rookmaker said that it's about checking the tick box, no? We check a tick box. And indeed, what's happening today with green energy is that many people who actually want to do something, I mean, everybody sees that the climate is changing. Just open your window, yeah, and you can see that the seasons are not there any longer. The sun is burning, it's raining too much, you have hail in France, floods in Italy, it's totally upside down. Everybody can see this. But the thing is that the governments and the media are leading, let's say, the crusade against climate change in the totally wrong direction. We think, or we made to think, it's all about CO2 and we can handle this. And if we pay higher taxes, CO2 taxes on the fuels, but then actually on everything that we consume, because fossil fuels are still used everywhere along the supply chain. I mean, just think about the textile industry, agriculture. I mean, even the tractors that we have on the field, they run on fossil fuels. Now, they still don't run on batteries or hydrogen or something, right? This will affect everyone. And we think that by paying these higher taxes, by looking at how CO2 certificates are being traded, by imposing CO2 quotas, and actually putting a very high burden on the population, which the population would be actually very happy to carry if it will lead to the desired result. But the thing is, and this is why this conference is so important to see, this doesn't bring anything, really anything, because the climate is a cyclical process, a geological process, a cosmical process. CO2 is by far not the cause of it. And we're paying so much money, really, every one of us. Also companies, I mean, both as individuals and as companies, we're paying so much money through higher electricity bills, extreme prices for fossil fuels, for gas. We're paying so much money for this. And this is being channeled, again, to certain so-called green projects. And we have to say green projects, because there's a lot of greenwashing nowadays, unfortunately, as well. And this is actually being channeled into private pockets. If you think this is nonsense, but on the other hand, in the format that we have today of our society in all countries, actually this is perfectly logical, because if you really have a question that concerns people, you don't have a solution, but you make a big business out of it. Yeah? And we're channeling public funds into private pockets. That's really preposterous. That is really, really preposterous, and is actually somehow the pinnacle, really the pinnacle of our power, profit, and consumption-oriented format that we live in, that even faced with this global challenge of an unprecedented scale, we can watch whichever video of whichever climate disaster. It's really unprecedented. And it's about people dying. The livestock, the trees, the cars, it's people first, right? We should care about the people. And people are dying. And if we still keep doing this nonsense, more people will be dying. Yeah, millions, billions. I really don't want to think of this scenario, but science tells us that if we don't do anything, this will happen. Well, we're making a business out of it, really. It's shameful. I'm sorry. It's nonsense. It's shameful. It's criminal at the end of the day, because the governments and the people in power, some of them know about this. I mean, if you look at the IPCC report, it's at ClimateGate. This was very interesting at the conference, this topic of ClimateGate, right? Some of them know what's happening, some don't know, some ignore, but are just bandwagoning on this CO2 story. They're actually burdened with the responsibility of our lives, but they're not dealing with it correctly. And if you have so much authority and responsibility, you should really act accordingly. And if you don't, that's criminal at the end of the day. I'm sorry to say, but it's really criminal.
Thank you so much, Christian. And it so aligns with everything that's going on right now in the society. For example, I just want to give this little example myself as a resident of Los Angeles, California. A couple of days ago, I'm opening the page of Los Angeles Times, and what I'm seeing is that the state of California trying to ban using gas for the stoves to help the climate change. And you should see the comments, because people understand that it makes no sense and how much more they're supposed to pay for the solutions that will not change anything. As you said, people would be willing to pay if they knew that it's going to change. But these solutions, the green energy solutions, only making some pockets greener, but not helping our planet in any way. And somehow this hypocrisy with concentration on money, on profit, but forgetting about the people, somehow it feels like we forgot the most important thing, the people's lives. And as you said, people already dying all over the world. And unfortunately, we've seen it at the conference. And I would like to ask my next question to Ms. Rookmaker. How important do you think it is to shift the focus of our attention from the transition of energy, profitable schemes and everything else into actually saving people's life? And how do you think it is important to start talking about saving people's lives and not about the financial schemes that making some strange decisions, I would have to say, honestly? Please, Ms. Dorian.
Well, as I mentioned before, I think it's of great importance to look in the direction you want to go. And it's morally just to put human lives in the center of your actions. But I think this is, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but there is something like the pyramid of Maslow. And it starts with basic things that everybody needs, like food and shelter. And then you go higher up on the ladder as soon as you achieve these basic stuff. There is room for empowerment and development. And I think as we see now is that, mankind is acting like an 8-year-old in total, and it's the time when you first come into class and in the sense that before that you were just busy with yourself, but when you're 8 and you're a bit above, then you notice there's a class and that you are part of a group. And then it becomes very important, and then you get all these ego things developing and going on, right? You want to be the best in class, you want to be the one with the most friends, or you're telling somebody, if you're not my friend, I'm not your friend. Well, if you look at a global scale, I'm sorry to say, and I don't want to sound pretentious, because we are all in it, I think, but if you're not careful, you get drawn into the busybody or business of how important can I be, and how will I achieve this? How is it with my status? How many likes do I get? And these are, of course, all distractions of things that are really important. And what is really important is, of course, human life, and not just the human life of some famous person or some very good person even. Human lives are important. Well, every human life is important, and we all count, and we all have a contribution to make. And this focus on making money and being successful, I think this is the status of it. It's a bit the status of someone, of an 8-year-old in class trying to be the best of class. And of course, this can be a useful thing, but you have to canalize it so that everybody can enjoy it. And people who are so busy with trying to make more and more money, well, we all are there to tell them that money isn't everything, and it starts with knowing yourself, as Socrates already said many, many years ago.
Thank you so much. I really like your comparison of our society with a group of 8-year-old children. You're absolutely right. So that picture is so clear. And I believe it's time to grow up. We really need to start act as adults in solving the problem and not running away from this problem, but really get all our strength, learn the problem, learn the root of this problem, and act. Because we know right now, so every minute that we're and sitting on the couch, this minute cost us we pay with the human lives. And that's just impossible to have right now. Thank you so much for this comparison. I hope people will hear and understand it and act accordingly.
If I may add something, Marina, for one moment here, this is very interesting, this example, because last year, when I was at the seashore in Italy, we're on holidays, I was not a father back then. Now I am a father. I was watching little kids playing in the sand. And just as Ms. Rookmaker said, they were striving, I want to have more toys and more sand. They were not sharing. And the parents were explaining to them, oh, come on, look, we have to share something. Look, you can share this toy with the other little boy and you can play together. And I was really so shocked. I had this understanding. But this is the way our world works, the world of adults. And it's very interesting that we, as I think many of us are parents here, we tell our kids and we try to give them values. They have to share, to be human, to be friendly, to work together, to cooperate, not fight, right? But this is only in our microenvironment. And if you see how our world works on the macro level, it's exactly like the sand pit or the classroom. Really great example. And I really have to say that we have indeed to grow up. This was very good vocabulary today, to grow up, to evolve, not to make a revolution or so, but to really evolve and transfer actually what we people want. This humanness at the end of the day, it's called humanness, right? To share, to be good, to be kind, right? To transfer this from the micro level, from the personal level, to the macro level of companies, corporations, states, the way we interact as somehow groups, and as groups, as communities, as humankind at the end of the day. And yes, this is what we need indeed to grow up. I like it so much, this emphasis. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christian. And again, like how child develops, like it doesn't matter how long and how often we will preach the child and trying to teach him how to be nice. Child will only learn by imitating. So if we will not act as we preach, nothing will help. So I understand, so in our society, the growing up process means starting to take responsibility and not like moving it to the shoulder of somebody else, like you go to office, so you need to fix this problem for us. If you don't fix it, we will blame you later, or we will re-elect somebody. No, that's exactly how 8 years old acting. So we need to really grow up and take this responsibility and create such a condition in our society that we will be able to solve everything, and we will be able to act together and cooperate and solve all these crises all together. Because those crises that we're facing right now, they are unprecedented, they are global, and those crises really need to have like global solution. We need to act together. Thank you so much, Christian. Thank you so much, Ms. Rookmaker. And Dr. Long mentioned earlier that he had to live through the Hurricane Ida, which recently struck the United States. And Dr. Long, you know how it feels to be inside of such a disaster. Could you tell us today, like, how you and the other victim dealing right now with its consequences?
Sure. As mentioned, I was, my home literally was ground zero, about the center of where Hurricane Ida hit on August 30th. So I've seen vividly how every hospital in the area closed. We had National Guard come in, we had emergency medical services. We couldn't really meet the needs of everybody. So here we are with thousands of people, homes destroyed like mine. I'm lucky I had good homeowners insurance. A lot of people don't. They're still living in tents. They're still living in basically squalor. We went weeks and weeks with no running water. We didn't have heat. We didn't have air conditioning, no electricity, no internet access. I mean, this was devastating here. The recovery from Hurricane Ida, while it's gone on for quite a while, is going to literally take years. Even if you drive down the street today in my town of Homa, you're still going to see wreckage all along the side of the road. You're going to see buildings destroyed, just literally skeletal remains of them. So this really hit home to me to see the effects of climate change. This is a hurricane unlike anything that had hit this area in history. Far more powerful, and we've had far more of them in recent years than we've ever had before. So I think it's believed by me and other people that this is an effect of climate change. To see firsthand the devastation economically, socially, and just basically over a wide area. I mean, there was literally about 60 miles of devastation that the hurricane left, is really a vivid reminder of just how serious climate change is and the very human aspect of to what happens when that happens. People suffering, the misery all around me is just incredible. We had a lot of people, as we've talked about, pulling together, good neighbors. We had people fortunately expressing those kind of values we all wish for everywhere, where they're trying to help each other, but it's still, the impact was just incredible here. And it certainly, you really learn the critical importance of having that value of helping each other. We saw that as a community, we all pulled together, and that really went a long way in helping to deal with some of the crises that Hurricane Ida left.
Thank you, Dr. Long. In preparation to this interview, when we were talking to you, and you really shared this story that neighbors would come and help you to fix your house or whatever is left of it, right? And we've seen the same story with our volunteers from Czech Republic after a tornado, when they were sharing stories that people from another towns and villages would come and help with toolboxes, fixing the bridges and houses before the government got involved. And this is so surprising because in all the Hollywood movies that we raised in, it's a completely different story. Everyone is fighting for themselves, trying to save themselves, but in real life, people act different, people act humane, and people are much better than we could imagine. One of the most important parts of this conference was sharing the stories of refugees, which was very heavy for our volunteers, and we were questioning ourselves, is it going to be polite, is it going to be appropriate to actually reach out to people and to ask them to share the stories about the heaviest experiences they had in their lives. And we were really questioning until we started acting and conducting these interviews. And we saw how much happy people were that somebody cares about their lives, about their stories, and put in efforts to let people know that tomorrow any one of us can be on their place. And today we all need to unite. So right now we're going to watch this video, which might look not easy to watch, but it's very important for each one of us to actually watch it and share. Please, let's watch the video.
Why is there such inhuman treatment of people? I was thinking about it and decided to figure it out.
You will never spend a month without being attacked with a xenophobic attack, because they say as a foreigners we are stealing their work. I've lost that hope of being in the great society. I don't know, I've lost that hope because seeing the way that people are being killed, seeing the way that people are being shot in my eyes.
A child can be sold many times. I remember one day I came across the story of a girl who was, she was Turkish. She had been sold 17 times, and she had been trafficked from one country to another 17 times, and she had experienced only rape.
I also sat in many auctions as a customer, as an undercover when I was doing the undercover. There where we were sitting for the auctions, 9-year-old girl, 10-year-old girl, as per the demands. So the trade called the first time sex. Whenever the auctions will happen, new girls arrive in the trade, so they put the auctions. So who will bid the last demand, the money, that person only will use that became full night for his choice.
The business that is made of spare parts, the human spare parts. How many children have been transferred from one place to another and then being operated on for some rich guys in different parts of the world to get a kidney or get something else from their bodies against their will.
Black market, traffickers, mafia is part of this economy that is ruling the world. So what else I can say? That I only see that another possibility is to spend money instead of constructing walls like we are doing in Europe.
In our society, human life has no value. How is it possible that instead of help, people encounter violence, aggression, abuse, and slavery? This is not a migration crisis, but this is a crisis of humaneness.
People, by looking at the existing legal frame, will not ever be entitled asking for protection. Because you will ask them which country you're coming from, they will say there is no country. I had a country called X, but the country now is underwater. Or I had a village and this village is being totally destroyed or disappearing.
It turns out that there are still no effective programs for the resettlement of refugees. For so many years, the United Nations has been working. For so many years, the Refugee Rights Commission has been working. So many humanitarian organizations and NGOs around the world have been working, but there are no working, established or adopted programs on how to work with these refugees. There are none, and the Refugee Commission itself admits this.
Now refugees are forced to leave their homes. They face condemnation and cruelty. They are left alone with their misfortune because of the consumerist format of society. Tomorrow's climate catastrophes could be upon us as well. Answer yourself honestly. Are you ready to face what refugees face? Are you sure you won't be in their shoes? That you and your loved ones won't have to go through what they're going through.
What we just saw is just terrible. How can something like this happen in our modern, what is considered to be civilized society? Can we really blame anyone? I think yes, we can. And the responsibility for what's happening is on all of us. After all, by our inaction and our indifference, we support the consumerist format where money and power come first and human life is worth nothing. And every day we find out about new climatic events around the world and we don't know where something will happen tomorrow. And there is no guarantee that this will not happen to us tomorrow and that we won't have to seek refuge in other countries. Kusum, would you please tell us what you think about what you have seen? Is anyone insured against being in these people's shoes, given that climate disasters are only escalating now?
First of all, very, very shocking eye-opener, regarding the magnitude of, of human trafficking and auction of girls. These stories like a girl was sold 17 times, and no one is insured. It can happen to any country. It can happen to any city or a person in the world. Now, climate change is indeed, is an induced conflict, I would say. Governments are not helping, and where is the missing link? It can happen to any one of us too. We do have Dr. Long's story, and he was in the middle of a crisis at that point in time. So, when I have no country to say, this country is mine, so how do I say where do I belong to? So people displaced due to climate crisis are no longer called human beings. They are either migrants or they are refugees or they are internally displaced people. Because I have no identity, when I become a climate refugee. So there's no country or no city to call as mine. As they were there yesterday and today it's all submerged under the ocean. So today, if I am silent and do not speak out, I'm a part of the problem as well, right? We've heard in this conference. So it is the world's most vulnerable people who are made to bear the brunt of this climate change, though they are least responsible for causing it. And, we are all, and they're so ill-equipped to deal with the consequences. And so with the climate change actually intensifying humanitarian needs, international humanitarian agencies are overwhelmed. They're increasingly stretched, and they lack funding that's required to address these issues. But what happens for each one of us? Like how Dr. Long also shared that there were people who were coming out and helping each other, and we have seen that that people are there to help each other out. So if you're going to see that there is no one that is insured, and as a reminder for a refugee, someone for whom it is not safe for reasons of ethnic, social, political, religious characteristics as well, to be sent back to their home country. So, and there are no laws defined in the UN convention as well. So I think it is up to us, and it is people like us, the common people like us, ordinary people like us, who need to represent not just the humanitarian need, but we need to also represent the political instability that is happening. And about the consumeristic society and the climate refugee problem, is also from the scientists who have strong beliefs about the world that they live in and their personal agendas as well. People who manage the funding agencies, as Mr. Christian had, he spoke about, the economic crisis also behind what happens in a climate crisis. So there are companies, political action groups, political parties, and NGOs. that who are paid for their research and also have ideological and organizational agendas. And so today, actually, no one values the environment, and therefore environmental expenses are considered extras, and so expensive, so expensive is what it's being told. So I think, with the sea level rise and with the consumeristic sort of a mindset that we have, we all need to understand that, no one is insured, and we have to take the responsibility for ourselves and probably, the other human life as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kusum. And as you mentioned, no laws defined. Well, there are definitely some laws because the legal term climate refugees does exist. But on the scale that it is happening right now, and just last year we had 86 million people as climate refugees, and right now we see it's picking up. So it's going to be more and more. It's going to be tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions people have to be displaced. And do we actually have any laws to regulate it, or laws for the countries to accept these people? Or what kind of situation are we looking to get ourselves into within the next years? I would like to address this question to Ms. Rookmaker and ask, are we prepared from legal side, and how do we deal with this?
Well, thank you for this important question. I think we're not prepared, and this is because the discussion on a political level, for instance, the EU, but also I think in the United States and everywhere, it is a toxic, non-productive political discussion. So people of left and right are condemning each other of being brainless or amoral, and they're not looking at the situation on a more objective, factual basis. And I don't want to blame them, because I can understand, because if you see people struggling or in a very, very bad situation, as a politician, you know that this will be an emotional debate. I've seen this over and over again. For instance, in the 90s, we had the war in the Balkan. And there were people in my own country, in the Netherlands, who said, we should do something. Nobody know what it should be, what we were doing, but people just couldn't cope with the negative things that were going on the Balkan. And then people try to escape this anxious feeling by coming up with short-term solutions. And I think the migration crisis is a very complex problem. And it's not only brought about by climate change, and I think we must be very careful not to put climate change as an etiquette on or a label on every problem that we face nowadays. So of course, climate change can be an aspect and can be a cause. But the main cause for migration problems are corrupt societies and governments that are misbehaving. These are the number one causes for migration. Almost all people want to make a living for themselves, want to build up a normal life. And in so many countries nowadays, this is simply not possible because people are living in corrupt societies. And then, of course, we end up at the point that we were starting, is that these corrupt societies are there because people think about short-term profits. And people get status and can lead a glamorous life if they're acting on a short-term basis. And this the same goes for politicians, but it's also for drug traffickers, human being traffickers, smugglers. And there are people that are looking for the loopholes in this society, in our system, to make a short, fast buck, to say. And this is, of course, a problem. And it's not dealt with properly when people are thinking about legislation. Because if you look at the migration legislation in the United States, but also in the EU, you can see that it is it's a business proposition for people who don't care about laws and don't care about people. And this is, of course, a huge problem. There will always be people looking out for opportunities elsewhere if they are in a bad situation in their own country, and this is a fact. And if there are lots and lots of people doing this at the same time, this is a logistical problem, because no country in the world can take on many, many millions of refugees at the same time. So we have to look at the cause, and the root cause, I think, of migration problems and people want to get out of their country is war and corrupt societies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're absolutely right that the main root of all our problem is the corrupt format, consumer format, the format where profit stays on the first place. And definitely we are facing right now labor migration, war migration, and with the escalating of climatic disasters, we are starting to see more and more climatic refugees as well. And definitely we are not prepared for that situation. We cannot fix it in this format. And the only way out of this terrible situation that we have already is to change the format. Because just think about what will happen if we will start to create new laws, start to act, build entire economy around the value of human life. Everything will be different. But again, this process will start only if the majority of people will start this change, this peaceful change, and start to act. And I would like to ask Christian, from the economic perspective, could you please share with us how do you think our society will change when we adopt that the human life is the highest value?
Our society will definitely change for the better in all aspects. This sounds maybe like a dream, a utopia. I hear this all the time from people who are skeptical about a creative society. But we have to understand one thing, the way the economy and the society, this legal, economic, social framework, let's say this multidimensional framework that we have, you can call it social contract, for instance. No? This is not a law of physics, not a law of science, chemistry, mathematics, made by whoever you want to believe, made by God, made by the universe. It's not something exogenous. It's something that we make. We people make. So we designed it today to have it in such a format, with people who are in positions of power, profiteering, enriching themselves. This is what we have today. And we have to understand this, and it has to click somehow here, not that the solution comes somehow from here, right? We have to understand that it's in our hands, but of course, only together. Now, I cannot change anything by myself. Ms. Rookmaker, Kusumi in India, nobody can change by himself, only together. And again, let's say if we live in a block of flats, or we live in a town, we have a city council. The more people are involved, the greater the solution and the more long-term it is. And if we want to change this social contract that we have, this profit, consumption, power-oriented format, we have to be all together in this. And we have to understand that, yes, we can. It's just in our hands. We're somehow made to believe that yeah, war is happening, let's say from the European perspective in the Middle East, or essentially, well, there has always been war, it has always been suffering. Let's say again from European perspective, in Africa or Latin America, there has been misery. We're somehow so used that, yeah, humans in suffering, well, it's part of our life. To be honest, it's part of our life. And I like so much Dr. Long today sharing his experience about this, that, when there's a catastrophe, war made by humans or climate, not made by humans, we have a lot of shocking news in the media, and okay, people get emotional and short-term reactions, okay, good, but then we forget about this. And I would like, or it would be nice to have somehow a reminder, look how the life of the people is 1 month later, 2 months later, 1 year later. Like Dr. Long said, even now there are people without housing, in certain areas without electricity. For instance, in the US, a tornado that was just recent, yeah, people without basic needs. And this is the reality, but then we just shift our attention to other stories, our problems, and then life continues in this survival success circle, right? And this is what we have to understand, that this is not normal. Really, this is not normal, and we can change it. And from an economic perspective, it actually makes so much sense. And people who are still skeptical, from our viewers, about the Creative Society project, well, how can it be? How can it work? Well, imagine that in every economic activity, in every human relationship, you put human life first. It's just a different goal, a different purpose of maximizing, let's say, the budget constraint, the workforce, whatever you have to work with. Let's say if you're a company or a country, you have certain resources, to put it very general, certain resources, and you have to optimize, right? You have to optimize. Today, we optimize only for profit in private pockets, not the profit of everybody by far. And we forget about human life, human health, and the environment. We're just destroying everything. We're destroying them. Let's start creating and improving human life. It's just the shift of this focus. A doctor will be a doctor in the Creative Society. A journalist is a journalist. A financial expert is a financial expert. Many people hate financial experts, but actually they have a very important role, but they're working for the wrong purpose. Imagine that in every economic activity, you put human life first, you rearrange everything else so that you improve the life of your employees, of your clients, of everybody involved, because it's everywhere, people, right? When you just open the fridge and you take something from there, it's the story actually of many people behind it, not people involved in agriculture, in transportation, even in marketing, in running the business. It's a story of people. And unfortunately, when you open the fridge today, it's a horror of the stories behind it. There's child labor, exploitation, unfairness, insecurity, inhumane working conditions all around the world. From a European perspective, again, we think that it's only there somehow, maybe in Asia or in Africa. No, it's even here in Europe. It's preposterous. Even here in Europe, in Spain or in Italy or in Eastern Europe, it's horrible how inhumanely people are treated. And imagine that in each economic activity, you change the focus. Now, if you're a doctor, you put human life first, you focus on prevention, you focus on medication, best quality and appropriate treatment, not who's paying the bill, who has the highest insurance, who's insured with this or that company. If you're a journalist, you write about the truth, you write good articles, you write truthful, real analysis of situations, not decontextualizing or something. Thinking about the sponsors, which advertisement is going to be placed on this article, which generates more money. If you're a company, even as a company, we're all hostages in this consumer format, because let's say if you somehow shift to, as we call it today, somehow organic, long-term, sustainable, well, your products are very expensive, you're not so competitive, you really have a problem running your business. Running a humane business is really a challenge today because you have the competition. And from an economic perspective, if you remove this actually crazy idea of this unhealthy, insane, unfair competition, companies don't have this pressure. The Creative Society format of people where human life is first removes this pressure of of surviving, of chasing profit. Remove the pressure, and then you can start focusing on what is important. For instance, as a company, you produce high quality products, good products. You care about where you source your products, what services you deliver. You care about your employees. You don't, again, look at this bottom line, the profit. No, you look at, are your employees happy? Are they healthy? Are they safe? Are they secure? Are they well treated? Are they happy as humans? And there's one entrepreneur who said one very important thing: stop focusing on your clients and customers. Focus on your employees first. If they're happy, they will make your clients or customers happy. Again, because we're humans, and that's right, a happy person will make everybody happy around him. Sounds again like a fairy tale or a dream, but please exercise this in your mind. Wherever you go, to the supermarket, to the drugstore, to the car service, if you fly by plane, by train, doesn't matter. Think and see how everything can be changed, sometimes in smaller steps, sometimes in bigger steps, but everything can be changed. And of course, just one company, one person, one manager, one government official, one politician, not even one president or one country could work this way. Because we're all interweaved. Now we're all in this big mechanism now called humanity on this planet Earth. And all together we have to focus on this, on establishing and uniting, really uniting in this idea, in this goal of putting human life first. In practice, not on paper. Papers, we have enough constitutions and charters, and we have enough of that. But we see what's happening in parallel, right? We saw this horrendous video with the refugees, which is the truth. Let's unite, and only by uniting, by channeling, by putting all our attention and time to what we want to maximize. We don't want to maximize profit. This is what every economic student learns today. Maximize profit, maximize shareholder value. No, maximize human life, human health, environment, improve human life. Isn't that what everybody wants for? I mean, everyone as a person wants to be treated fairly, nicely, decently, to be loved. This is what every human wants, right? So if we want this, why don't we start working on this? Start working on this. And if we want this, then let's give it. Let's make it a reality. Yeah, and actually what we all discussed today here, from a climatic perspective, the corruption perspective, the refugees, all these problems are intertwined. And the solution is one. It's really to unite in this goal of putting human life first. What a great world can there be? And it is in our hands. We have to move. Sitting on the couch, blaming politicians, voting, pushing responsibility won't help. We have to get involved. That's the key. And we need it now more than ever, because climate change is a huge threat, a global threat. It's about life and death. If we are sitting here, we are the lucky ones that were not affected directly, our lives, by climate change. And I've been looking at Dr. Longhill. We're the lucky ones, really. We're the lucky ones. We could be the ones in the news or in the videos. We're the lucky ones. So let's start doing it now.
Wow, Christian. Well, I feel very inspired to build a creative society after this. And I think everyone understands it. Even living in the first world countries, working for good tech companies, what I see, everyone understands that there is no security in tomorrow. No one can sense that they are actually have the, like imagine the society where the fear of uncertainty of tomorrow is removed. And if all the brightest minds of our society would work towards this goal, instead of trying to raise the market value of their company shares in the third quarter of the next year, right? Or like developing a better sneakers or model of the cell phone. Maybe we're just not focusing our attention in the right direction. How easy we criticize certain politicians or talk negatively about certain public figures, and how hard it is, how uncommon it was up until now to talk about the vision of the future, which we actually want to live in. And this is amazing that this events, this conference, this roundtable is actually a shift in the consciousness. It's a big shift. And I'm just happily watching how Dorian was listening to Christian, and I see that there is demand. I see that there is demand among all spheres of society. I would like to hear your thoughts, Ms. Rookmaker, about need of unity, right? Can we solve this kind of challenges like on local level or even country level or even continent level? Or this is something that requires actually much bigger unity of our civilization as a whole and this format of the society that
I think we have to make a distinction between solving a problem and making a contribution to it. Because if we mix the two together, it could be emotionally overwhelming and it would make you passive. Because as Christian already so clearly put it, then you think, well, misery has been always there, and what's the point, and what can I contribute to change it? But I think, we've all played, I think, or maybe not all, but some of us have played with a magnet and with iron on the paper that you can, when you were small, or maybe when you were in high school as a sort of project that you could see how magnetism works. And as Christian put it, if we are all focusing on profit maximization, then we're going into the negative direction. If we are focusing on human life and positive things, what did I do today? How did I contribute to human lives, the protection of them? How did I contribute to unity, to world peace? If this is the focus that you have, actually your life is getting better instantly. Doesn't matter what circumstances you're in, even if the circumstances are hard. If you have a positive focus in that you try to make the best of it for yourself, but also for the environment and for your fellow human being, it's always better than to focusing on something stupid like profits, So, thank you. I think unity is, of course, is something that we strive for now in this movement, and it would be so good to inspire every day a bit of more people, because if we're able to magnetize other people, not hypnotize or manipulate, but magnetize, in the sense that you see that we can convince them that just by shifting the paradigm, by shifting the focus into something positive, our world could be so much better place to be in. That would be very, very good. And because all these problems that we're facing right now, you cannot tackle alone, not even a government, not even an international organization. We have to do it all together. And it's so much more fun also to do it all together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I absolutely agree that unity is the power, and only together, by multiplying our human potential, we will be able to find the solution. This is in our nature. Together, we can do a lot. But what we see in our format, the consumerist format, is the format that divides us, format that pits people against each other. It is designed so that everyone is fighting for their own scheme, for their own wallet. And under these conditions, unification unification is impossible because you cannot make millions from it. It's not profitable. That's why there is no alternative to a creative society. And I fully agree with what Christian was saying before. There is a common, in a creative society, there is a common goal and very simple task to survive. And subsequently to move to a new stage of evolution. The creative society already unites people around the world because it is based on the value of human life. And each person is important in such a society. And this is the essence. And this is what fundamentally different from the consumer format, from corrupt format. In this consumerist format, we will not find a way out of those crises in which we are beginning to sink today. And there are more than ever before. Our common future depends on the action of every one of us. And I'm absolutely agree that the information about the possibility of building creative society needs to reach everyone. Because again, only together, by uniting the potential of everyone on the planet, can we not only stop the climatic threats, but we can turn our planet into a thriving world. Dr. Kusum, could you please share your experience of the proactive actions that are so important in the first stage of informing? And what can everyone do right now in order to spread this information about creative society?
Thank you so much. It's really such an important question because we all need to do more. And I think mindfulness is the key to, to resolve a lot of challenges that we are facing, that the world faces, that's converging environmental crisis. And the accelerating destruction of nature and climate change. So, like the creative society, when we are united, united we can, as we say. So, we are the ones who can change the world, and it is time. So, what is happening in today's world is a result of a consumeristic format of society. So, for our humanity to survive, we need a new format of society, and that's a creative society. So there's an importance of bringing people together to build this creative society where the value of every human life comes first. Even if the situation, seems a huge uphill task, it is important to remember that there's always a way out, especially when people are already building this creative society. Over the last 4 months, we've seen there are thousands of volunteers, all across the world, who have got this conference together as well. They're all uniting all people, on a spiritual and a moral basis. And that will all make it possible to survive and endure despite the global crisis on the earth and build a decent world for all people. Now, the fundamental law is that everything affects everyone, everyone. So no one person can be left behind. And more people realize the importance of building that creative society. It was such a pleasure hearing Christian talking about building a creative society and that the human human life is first. And also, me being in education and being an educator day in and day out, this is what we're talking to children, we're talking to parents, that the importance of human life and of a creative society as well. Because only by changing the format, also of relationships in society, can we survive the climate refugee problem and the crisis as well. So, what we can do so that we, our families, children, the next generation would live in a society worthy of a human. Only together as entire humanity, we find answer to these questions where we say that human is a fundamental unit of society and humanity is one big family. right? There's human life, there's human freedom, the 8 foundations of the creative society, human safety, transparency and openness of information for all, as we are sharing today, the creative ideology, development of personality, justice and equality, and a self-governing society. Only we ourselves, the people, we can bring the creative society to life by spreading awareness. It is important now for every one of us, on every inhabitant, you can say, of the planet, to learn about this unifying idea. Changes begin with us, and with the information we share with each other. Can we do more? Yes, it is clear that even if international community manages to make further progress, it has a long way to go before it has, exhausted its current agenda of negotiated restrictions on climate change, and like they say that the carbon emissions, and it's so important in the global crisis or the climate crisis that's happening. So the causes of this situation are multiple, but one feature stands out, that only if we unite as humanity, we unite as people, we unite as a creative society, and keeping the 8 foundations of creative society in mind, can we can be a contributor to the conflict that's arising. So I'd like to say these Mother Teresa's words that always impact me, that kind words can be short and easy to speak, but the echoes are truly endless. So let's be kind, let there be a lot of compassion around. So a creative society that has to have a power to connect, to communicate and care. Love and compassion are inevitables, and they are not treats. Be kind whenever possible, as it's always possible. So as a human, we talk in a creative society, we talk about us as human. That's a fundamental unit of the society, and all of us as humanity is a one big family. So let's be transparent and spreading awareness about the creative society and how we can all live together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kusum. Listening to you is so inspiring, because it shows how much one person can do and how much one person can make a difference, especially in today's world. If, for example, 10 years ago, someone would tell me that I'm just a regular person born in Kiev, Ukraine, will be on this call with so many people from absolutely different parts of the world discussing these topics, I would not believe. And 10 years ago, it was impossible. But today it is possible. Today, so many people actually united and can make a difference. Even one person changes a lot. Even one person conducting an interview with a specialist, writing an email, making a story on their social media, letting other people know that, whoa, we can live different and that you're not alone. Because what I found out, that whenever I was conducting interviews in California with different people, I found out that all of them want to live in this world which basically is creative society, but they didn't know about the project. They were just describing the 8 foundation. When I was serving them, I was asking people, what kind of society would you like to live in? And they were like, wow, what an interesting question. Never thought about it, but let me explain it to you. And that's funny that after basically telling me about something that's written in the Creative Society Foundation, they would say, this would be great, but other people wouldn't support me. So with doing what we're doing, we actually breaking this illusion of people thinking that they are alone, wishing for the world to be better. No one is alone. We, all of us, 99% of people, we want to live in this world where people live in peace and unity. And I would like to ask Dr. Jeffrey Long, since I know you support, understand the whole idea of the creative society, how can we let other people know about this importance and actual understanding, share it with other people? What's your idea?
That is a great question. How can we get the word out? about the Creative Society. When Hurricane Ida wrecked this whole geographic area just a short while ago, I saw Creative Society in action. Immediately, with devastation everywhere, people helped their neighbors. They didn't ask how much they were being paid. We didn't wait for the government. Over and over, all around where I live, people got together through compassion with people that had had great losses. We all worked together to help each other. We provided homes. We provided water when we were running out of water. There was no flowing water for a while. Helping people to recover from injuries. Those of us in the hospital, all sometimes driving through the street with debris on the street, got to the hospital and mobilized as quickly as we can to help people, to help those that were injured. I saw it in action. This was a compassionate, loving outreach by so many people in this area. I'm still literally in awe at how the power that was. And on top of all that, when you reach out compassionately like that, lovingly to other people, they realize how important that is in their own lives. They're more likely to reach out to others to help compassionately. There's like a ripple effect with this compassion, with this love that people see in action in their own lives. They're more likely to reach out to others in love and compassion. So I've seen this, and I've seen it vividly, and I know its power. Now, we've talked about climate change and its disasters like hurricanes. We've talked about the refugee crisis. That's frightening. But the good news is, I think, as I saw vividly here in my hometown, working together through the concepts of the Creative Society, there's a real hope for the future. I think as we all reach out as a group here, what we're sharing here today, I think that's very important. I think another thing that's very important is to understand Creative Society starts with each and every one of us. Day by day, week by week, there's going to be opportunities to reach out to others compassionately, to help them understand the power of compassion by what we share with other people. And then you can expand that out to regional, expand that out to the government, express those values of a compassionate society, of Creative Society. And I think working together, all of us aware of just how extremely important that is. In spite of all the stuff we've talked about, the scary, I think there's real hope for the future. And I think all of us working together and all of us listening to what we're sharing today can be a very important part of bringing that about.
Wow, Dr. Long, thank you so much for your experience. Again, it warms my heart every time I hear the story of people actually helping people, not waiting for the government to come, just getting in their truck, getting the toolbox in and going out there to help other people, get food, get shelter to those who are in need. And I think this is the human essence. This is the human essence of each one of us, because it doesn't matter what kind of material achievements we get in this life. The only thing that can make a person really, really happy is being useful and actually helpful to other people, to the society. So let's get this idea popular and let's actually build a society that's actually worth living. Because today we all are in one boat. This boat, you can call it a spaceship. This is our planet Earth. This is a very tiny little place where all of us are connected and can be just one Zoom call away from completely different side of the planet. So at the very end of our international discussion, we have this really, really warm video which actually shows this allegory of our society and the challenges that we are about to face, that we are actually facing right now. We regular volunteers, people here today on the call, and people behind the scenes, because our viewers seeing these faces on the screen, but there is a big technical support team. Just one call is being translated into over 14 languages. Can you imagine that? And people translating it, not being paid by anyone, and nobody is financially interested. And that's, I think, what makes it so unique, because that's why we can say the truth, because we are not afraid that our research project or our job won't get financed or paid tomorrow. We don't care about it. We're not interested financially, and this is what makes it so unique. We can actually tell the truth because we care about the future. So that's actually a funny thing. When people ask me who finances Creative Society, I usually ask who's supposed to pay me money for me to care about my future, about future of my kids. Is there anyone supposed to pay me money for that? I don't think so. I think we should bring more clarity into actual purpose of a human life and actually make human life valuable. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you all our amazing guests today for your speeches. It makes a huge difference, and it makes our hearts warmer to hear that there are amazing people like this out there in the world. This is what Creative Society is about uniting people who really care about humanity. Thank you so much. And let's watch the video.
Humanity, various races, nationalities, religions, but we are all sailing in the same boat in this ocean of life. And the course of all-absorbing consumerism, which our common ship has taken today, is leading us to precipice. Just a little longer, and we will irreversibly fall into the abyss of economic, social, and climate catastrophes. Perhaps someone doesn't want to see and admit obvious facts, yet being afraid to turn around and see the reality. In the endless rush, in the ordinary everyday routine, in the race for success and survival in this world of consumerism. But every day, more and more people stop and ask themselves these questions. Where is this world coming to? What does the future hold for me and my children? How can I make sure that the world will be a safe, happy, and prosperous place? After all, no matter how successful you are, if the whole world is falling apart, there is no way you can avoid a bitter fate. We can change the course of our ship, which is speeding into the abyss, and instead of the abyss of consumption, steer it in the direction of the creative society. But we can do this only together. We need to unite our collective human potential, become a united civilization, and row in one direction. Uniting in a common goal, we need to direct our attention, our efforts, our knowledge, and our skills to charting a new course. And how quickly we can do this depends on the choice of each person. Our salvation is only in our unity. Only by working together can we build a truly decent world. A world that will have a future for us and our children. And that is the creative society. We still have a chance. So let's take it